I put makeup on today for y'all. You're welcome. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't yet, I would love it if you liked my video and subscribe to my channel. I am going to booktube you to death. It is towards the end of August, and so I wanted to go through my favorite books I've read this year so far. I am currently on 45 out of my 50 planned books, so I've been reading a lot faster, so hopefully I'll catch up to my total of last year, which I think I got to like 57 books or so last year. So I'm hoping I can maybe, if I'm super good, get up to 60 books this year. That's a good little Goodreads plug. If you're not following me, you should be, and I will link it down below. This is going to be completely spoiler free. However, there could be some mild spoilers because at least one of these books is like a second book in a series. So just be aware and be careful. This is my lovely little Kindle. If you have been watching my channel, you know right now I'm living with my parents, and all of my books are in storage, and I haven't had room to buy new books, so everything I've been buying has been on my Kindle. My husband did get me a new one for Valentine's Day this year. It is the newest waterproof version, and I am obsessed. It is the paper white, and it reads just like a book. You can see like the glare isn't that bad in direct sunlight, which is really nice. So with that being said, the first one is The Wicked King by Holly Black. This one is the second in the series from The Folk of the Air. And I'm gonna go ahead and just read you the descriptions of these as well, and just say I really, really enjoyed this book, and I'm so looking forward to the last one, which I believe is coming out in like November. So the premise says, and I'm just reading these descriptions from Goodreads, so you can decide if you want to read it if you haven't yet. Again, most of mine are YA. I am such a young adult fanatic. That's all I read. After the jaw-dropping revelation that Oak is the heir to Fairy, Jude must keep her younger brother safe. To do so, she has bound the Wicked King Cardan to her and made herself the power behind the throne. Navigating the constantly shifting political alliances of Fairy would be difficult enough if Cardan were easy to control, but he does everything in his power to humiliate and undermine her, even as his fascination with her remains undiminished. When it becomes all too clear that someone close to Jude means to betray her, threatening her own life and the lives of everyone she loves, Jude must uncover the traitor and fight for her own complicated feelings to Cardan to maintain control as a mortal in Fairy World. So this was potentially my top favorite, but I don't want to say that for sure, of this year. This was fantastic, and the ending was very jaw-dropping, and of course I'm very like do and don't see endings coming, so I was very shocked. Next up is Ashe Princess. This was really, really good. This was a really interesting one. It reminded me a little bit of like a Sarah J. Maas series. I did read the first and the second one. It is called the Ashe Princess Trilogy. The second one is called Lady Smoke, which was just as good as Ashe Princess. But because I could only choose one, I'm just choosing the first one because it's always fun to dive into a new world, in my opinion. And then there's a third one called Ember Queen, which is coming out next year. So you can decide if you might want to read this one or not. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So it goes, Theodosia, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, was 6 when her country was invaded, and her mother, the Fire Queen, was murdered before her eyes. On that day, the Kaiser took Theodosia's family, her land, and her name. Theo was crowned Ashe Princess, a title of shame to bear in her new life as a prisoner. For 10 years, Theo has been a captive in her own palace. She's endured the relentless abuse and ridicule of the Kaiser and his court. She is powerless, surviving in her new world only by bearing the girl she was deep inside. Then, one night, the Kaiser forces her to do the unthinkable. With blood on her hands and all hope of reclaiming her throne lost, she realizes that surviving is no longer enough. But she does have a weapon. Her mind is sharper than any sword, and power isn't always won on the battlefield. For 10 years, the Ashe Princess has seen her land pillaged and her people enslaved. That all ends here. So, it's a really good book. If you're really into epic girl power books, this is one for you. Then I read Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I had seen this book a bunch of times. I don't know. I don't know when it came out, but I had been seeing this for at least a year before I finally grabbed it. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is such a good Marissa Meyer book. It's very different than the Cinder series. And this one was so different and so good. And so I'll quickly read you the description. I did read the second one in this book this year as well, called Arch Enemies. Arch Enemies is also should have made this list, but because it's part of this series, I just went ahead and put Renegades down. But this is fantastic. This is another favorite. So, the Renegades are a syndicate of prodigies, humans with extraordinary abilities who emerged from the ruins of a crumbled society and established peace and order where chaos reigned. As champions of justice, they remain a symbol of hope and courage to everyone, except the villains they once overthrew. Nova has a reason to hate the Renegades, and she is on a mission for vengeance. As she gets closer to her target, she meets Adrian, a renegade boy who believes in justice and in Nova, but Nova's allegiance to the villains who have the power to end them both. So, it's a very comic booky, it's a very superhero-y, and it's a really cool. And of course, I think I was reading this around the time I was watching, trying to get caught up on all the Avengers movies before Endgame came out. So of course, this is a great book to read if you're watching any Avengers movies. Next up is Tithe by Holly Black. I think this was the year of Holly Black for me because I had read a few books by her, but I really discovered that I love everything she's written so far. I think I've read almost everything she's written at this point. So I did read Tithe. This was the Modern Fairy Tales #1. And it is about Welcome to the Realm of Very Scary Fairies. This was a little creepy. 16-year-old Kate is a modern nomad. Fierce and independent, she travels from city to city with her mother's rock band until an ominous attack forces Kate back to her childhood home. There, amid the industrial blue-collar New Jersey backdrop, Kate soon finds herself an unwilling pawn in an ancient power struggle between two rival fairy kingdoms, a struggle that could very well mean her death. I did read the third book in this, Ironside, and then I skipped the middle book, Valiant, because it was about her mom, and I kind of was just like, I don't care about her mom because she was kind of the worst. So I just went ahead and went to Ironside. I don't feel like I missed anything. Comment below if you feel like I really missed a lot and I should read Valiant. Next up is The Unfunny Manners by Christina Lauren. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It's probably one of the only books I read this year that wasn't young adult themed, and it was just a cute, fast, fun read if you're into any sort of romantic books. Olive Torres is used to being the unlucky twin. From inexplicable mishaps to a recent layoff, her life seems to be almost comically jinxed. By contrast, her sister Amy is an internal champion. She even managed to finance her entire wedding by winning a slew of contests. Unfortunately for Olive, the only thing worse than constant bad luck is having to spend the wedding day with the best man and her nemesis, Ethan Thomas. Olive braces herself for wedding hell, determined to put on a brave face when the entire wedding party gets food poisoning. The only people who aren't effective are Olive and Ethan. Suddenly, there's a free honeymoon up for grabs, and Olive will be danged if Ethan gets to enjoy paradise solo. Agreeing to a temporary truce, the pair head for Maui. Before the Broken Star. This was another favorite on my list. This was a very original story in my opinion. It was very different, very interesting than anything I've read in a while. The second book in the series is called Into the Hourglass, and that just came out either last night or last week. I can't remember. It just downloaded onto my Kindle, so I'm excited to jump into that as soon as I'm done with the one I'm currently reading right now. So this is what it's about. Everly Donovan is living on borrowed time. The lone survivor of her family's unexplained assassination, she was saved by an ingeniously, crafted clockwork heart. But the time she was given won't last forever. Now, every tick-tock reminds her how fragile her existence is and hastens her quest to expose Killian Markham, the Navy admiral who shattered her world and left her for dead. But Everly's hunt for justice will be a long and hard-won voyage. Her journey takes her to a penal colony on a cursed isle where she will be married off and charged to build a new world. It is here and beyond that hidden realms hide, treasures are unearthed, and her family secrets are buried, young love will test the strength of her makeshift heart. When Everly discovers Markham may not be who he seems, her pursuit for truth is bound to his redemption, her tragic story, and her astonishing destiny. So this was very interesting. I feel like that doesn't even cover half of what happens. It's just such a good book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's very piratey, which if you know me, you know I'm a big fan of anything piratey. Okay, next I decided to read A Court of Thorns and Roses. I know I'm super late to the party on this one, but oh my gosh, mind blown. This was so good. Okay, so I'm not even going to read the description because if you haven't read it, just dive in. Don't read the description. Figure it out. Love it, live it, learn it, whatever. It's wonderful. Okay, I loved this book. It was so good. It is by our queen herself, Sarah J. Maas. And of course, everything she writes is gold. This went faster for me. There's not as many books as in the Throne of Glass series. And so this obviously went faster to me. I had heard this is easier to get into and to read than Throne of Glass. For some reason, the first one for Throne of Glass was really hard for me to read and get into. And of course, it ended up being one of my favorite series of all time. But A Court of Thorns and Roses, I think, comes in second. Also, if you've read Throne of Glass, there's some pretty terrifying scenes in that book. This isn't as scary, however, it is still pretty creepy. Okay, bear with me, there's only a few left. Okay, next up, I really enjoyed the 3 Dark Crowns series. This I kept seeing, it's got such a stunning cover on it. I kept seeing this like a lot of places. This has been out since like 2016 or so. And I finally decided to pick it up and read it, and oh my gosh, mind blown. So it does have 3 different views of each of the princesses, so keep that in mind. Sometimes you have to like realign and figure out which one it's because it doesn't like come out and say which princess you're diving into, so you kind of have to be aware of which princess, but you'll get it once you understand like what's going on. Just dive in, don't let that hesitate. Sometimes multiple views of different characters will make me hesitate. I'll just read you the description really quickly, and this was really fantastic. Every generation on the island of Finburn, a set of triplets is born. 3 queens, all equal heirs to the crown, the crown, and each possessor of a coveted magic. Ooh. Mirabella is a fierce elemental able to spark hungry flames or vicious storms at the snap of her fingers. Catherine is a poisoner who one can ingest the deadliest poison without so much as a stomachache. And Arsinoe, a naturalist, is said to have the ability to bloom the reddest rose and control the fiercest of lions. But becoming the queen crowned isn't solely a matter of royal birth. Each sister has to fight for it. And it's not just a game of win or lose, it's life or death. The night the sisters turn 16, the battle begins. The last queen standing gets the crown. And there's a little bit more, but I feel like it adds too much information, so if you're interested, you should read it. It's really, really good. Then I read The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black because I've had this book on my shelf for a couple of years, the physical book, and I've just never read it. And I don't know why I never got into it, but this was very interesting. True to Holly Black, it's about fairies as per usual, and I really, really enjoyed it. This is a standalone novel, I believe. Hazel lives with her brother Ben in the strange town of Fairfold where humans and fae exist side by side. The fairies' seemingly harmless magic attracts tourists, but Hazel knows how dangerous they can be and knows how to stop them, or she did once. At the center of it all, there's a glass coffin in the woods. It rests right on the ground, and in it sleeps a boy with horns on his head and ears as pointed as knives. Hazel and Ben were both in love with him as children. The boy has slept there for generations, never waking, until one day he does. As the world turns upside down, Hazel tries to remember her years pretending to be a knight, but swept up in a new love, shifting loyalties, the fresh string of betrayal, will it be enough? Sounds interesting. It was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So if you're interested in a standalone novel that's epic or that's kind of dark, The Darkest Part of the Forest is a really good one. And last but not least, we have Legend by Marie Lu. Marie Lu is one of my favorite authors. She also wrote the Young Elites series, which is also one of my favorite all-time series. It's very dark, but very good. Legend has been out and people have been raving about it for years, and I just never picked up on it. I did just finish the entire series last week, so this is a little more fresh in my mind. This was very interesting, very good. I don't really want to say too much about it without spoiling it, because this is not a spoiling video. Once known as the western coast of the United States, the Republic is now a nation perpetually at war with its neighbors, the colonies. Born into an elite family in one of the Republic's wealthiest districts, 15-year-old June is a military prodigy. Obedient, passionate, and committed to her country, she is being groomed for success in the Republic's highest circles. Born into the slums of the Republic's Lake sector, 15-year-old Day is the country's most wanted criminal, but his motives may not be as malicious as they seem. From very different worlds, June and Day have no reason to cross paths, until the day June's brother Mateus is murdered and Day becomes the prime suspect. I kind of love that because my youngest nephew's name is Mateus, and that is like the cutest name ever, but okay. Continuing on. Now, caught in the ultimate game of cat and mouse, Day is in a race for his family's survival while June desperately tries to avenge Mateus's death. But in a shocking turn of events, the two uncover the truth of what has really brought them together and the sinister lengths to which their country will go to keep its secrets. So, if you're interested in reading Legend, I highly recommend this as well. If you have any suggestions, anything that's YA and classified as YA, I like, because it's going to be a little more lighthearted. Well, you would think so, than some of the others. If you loved any of these, let me know which ones you've read below, which ones you've been meaning to read, which ones you would love to read, or you found because of this video. If you have anything that I should read before the end of this year, let me know in the comments below. I'm really interested and always looking for new books to read. So I hope you guys have a good one, and see you in the next video.